Hello my wonderful, beautiful friends guys, welcome back to our /EntitledPeople, where people truly believe the world revolves around them and they can do what they want, when they want. And in today's episode, we're dealing with incredibly entitled roommates. And one OP tells us about the time their roommate helps out a homeless person, and it turns into an absolute nightmare. Guys, I hope you enjoy the stories, don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. Okay, so we just found out that my cousin is going to need a new kidney. My family had a call about it on Sunday to get an update and talk through finding a donor. Some of us, including myself, seem to have compatible blood types at least. So we decided that we would look into getting tested to see if we might be compatible donors. It's still fresh, so I'm not sure what the next steps are, but we're planning on catching up again this weekend. Anyways, my roommate overheard the conversation, and since then, he's told me that I should let one of my other family members be the donor. I more or less told him that wasn't his business, but the guy persisted to tell me that I can only donate one kidney, and that I should think very carefully before giving one away, since somebody else, his emphasis in my life, might need one eventually. Now, the way he said it was kind of weird, so I pressed him about who he might be referring to. At first, he was a bit evasive, but then he brought up that as an example, he might need a kidney donation someday since he's diabetic, and that he doesn't have living family. He then told me it would be optimal for me to let someone else in my family donate, so that mine would be available just in case for him. And as you can imagine, the guy's a bit of a weird dude, and one of those people there's not much point arguing with. So I basically told him that it's an interesting perspective, and I left it at that. I was planning on moving out when our lease is up soon, so it's not really a big deal. And don't worry, I have absolutely zero intention of letting this affect our decision. I just thought you might get a kick out of this whole situation. And getting a kick out of it I did, like calling dibs on someone's organs, that's a new one. Like the audacity of someone eavesdropping on a personal call and then going, oh crap, I might need a kidney someday. They seem willing to give one up. Better put my name first. Let's hope OP goes no contact after they move, because the last thing OP needs is the guy to show up a decade down the road and going, hey, do you remember that kidney I called dibs on a while back? Well, I'm here to collect. Many moons ago, I had a roommate who was very entitled. I was a young adult, 21-ish at the time, trying to find a place with a buddy of mine. Unfortunately, we both had minimum wage jobs at the time, and a place could only really be affordable if we had a third roommate. Eventually, we settled on my girlfriend's work friend. The work friend was chill, he was a laid-back guy, and he matched mine and my buddy's vibes well, so we found a house together. The guy's about a decade older than me and my buddy. Well, after several months of living with a work friend, I noticed that my food would often go missing. Now I thought I was going crazy, or that I was eating more than I intended because I'd never lived in a household where somebody would steal someone else's food. Eventually, I discover that my nearly full jar of peanut butter is suddenly 90% empty, and I'm thinking to myself, alright, that one definitely wasn't me. So I check with my childhood buddy. He doesn't know. And then I check with work friend. According to him, his cat got into my peanut butter, and he ate it. Well, obviously A, cats don't have opposable thumbs and can't open a peanut butter jar, and B, they don't tend to use spoons. I have an irritating but frank talk with work friend, telling him, hey, I don't like my food being stolen, please don't do it. Now, he doesn't admit any wrongdoing, but I assumed that that point had been made clear. I was incorrect. About a month later, I purchased for myself a rare treat, a dozen gourmet donuts from this place called Voodoo Donuts. $25 worth of donuts. I didn't have a car at the time, so I had biked from Voodoo to my place. Upon arriving, I set the box in my bedroom and I went to take a quick shower to knock the sweat off. Now, I shower quickly, so I would have been gone for an absolute maximum of 10 minutes. After showering, I was about to hang out in my room and put on a movie and enjoy my delicious treats. But as I open the box, I discover something horrifying. Was it a missing donut? No. Was it no donuts? No. Now, what could this man have done to donuts that would horrify someone? Well, this knuckle-dragging troglodyte had taken a single bite out of each damn donut. And all I can say were words were had, loud, angry words. The blame was poorly deflected. The guy went on to say I didn't do it, and then went to say, well, I did do it, but I thought they were for everyone. And then at the end he said, well, I just wanted to try all the flavors. To which I said to him, stay the F out of my room. Anyways, I end up calling his parents, who were financially supporting him. And I'd like to say that they didn't pay his rent that month, or they gave him some kind of slap on the wrist, but he only had to beg slightly harder for rent from them that month. And that was only after he tried to ask one of my guests for rent money. So basically a greedy, spoiled, broke roommate, the best kind, right? Like, I would have lost my temper so bad, guys. It's one thing to take a donut or two from a box that doesn't belong to you, but to take a bite out of each of the 12 donuts, like, it would have been better to have eaten them all at that point. Some people are animals, I tell you. And the fact that made it worse is the guy goes into OP's bedroom, where OP was keeping those sweet treats safe. Again, I would have lost it. I would have started pelting the dude with those donuts. And this person shares their comments on what they did to a food-thieving roommate. This person says, should have told him you licked them all. My roommate was stealing my food, and not only admitting, but apparently bragging about it to my other roommates and calling me a pushover. I didn't want to participate in whatever they thought they were doing, especially since I'm moving away in 2 months. But I do want my food. So today, while they were sitting in the kitchen chatting, I came in, took my meatballs from the fridge, and then licked them one by one while maintaining eye contact with the thief. I then licked several other items and pretended to spit into my milk, and she looked utterly disgusted. Eventually, she asked me, "Are you effing mental?" To which I calmly replied, "I always do this, didn't you know?" and then left. Her face of mixed disgust and horror makes it worth it, and she ended up stopping. So I had a roommate in college who was just a nightmare. She always tore up my dishes, my pots and pans, used my shampoo, wore my jeans, took my bras, never asked permission. She just walked into my room and took whatever she wanted. The girl literally had nothing of her own, I swear. My pots were just those cheap ones from Target, but they were all I had. The last straw was when she ruined one of them by heating it up with nothing in it. The burner was on max. She forgot she was cooking something and then went to her room to watch a 2-hour movie. And why, the world may never know. I put all the pots and pans in my bedroom, and I kept my door locked after that. I also banned her from touching anything I owned or purchased. I resorted to petty stuff like, these are my eggs, that's my remote, etc. I was young and entirely too salty for my own good. I will openly admit that. Well, she was so upset after a week of being denied part ownership of my things that she ends up insisting I move out, which is a bold move, honcho, considering it was my name on the lease, not hers. I had been letting her live with me without putting her name on the lease, and we had another 2 months on our lease. I told her this, and she was still adamant I move out, as she wanted the place to herself. So I thought to myself, okay, fine, sounds great to me. So I went to the landlord, and I informed him that I wanted out of my lease. He was used to students bobbing in and out as it was a college town, and he said as long as I could find somebody and give up my deposit to that person, I could leave early. Naturally, he didn't know that I had an illegitimate roommate who wasn't on my lease. So guess who got a new roommate, courtesy of Craigslist, exactly 2 days later? Not me. I couch surfed with a friend across town until getting a better job and my own apartment. Now this does sound harsh for a burnt pan. But earlier in the year, my dog bit her. He nipped her hand. There was no broken skin, just one hell of a bruise. He nipped her hand because she was in my room, and she came in on her own accord when I wasn't home. She reaches over him to open my dresser. I had a baby gate blocking him in my room, so she had to admit that's what happened. But she said she needed her necklace that was mysteriously in my dresser. Her parents then bullied the 20-year-old me into giving my dog away. They threatened to sue me for damages, and because I was young and scared of getting in trouble, I end up agreeing to give my dog away to a friend. The whole ordeal was terrible. Shortly after that, she gets a cat. I think the whole thing was a setup so she could get a cat without my dog trying to eat it. So back to the new roommate. The guy found my ad and he said he and his wife would take it. They were at the door of the leasing office to sign papers the next day. When my roommate found out, she was livid. Her parents were livid. She had told them that she was on the lease and they had been paying half the rent. So the sudden realization that she was lying and that she had nowhere to live was a bit exciting for everyone involved on that end. But there was nothing they could do. It was my apartment, and I had the right to sublet it, and she wasn't on the lease. So bitch, don't use my pans. I never did apologize for forcing her to live with a random man and his wife though, and I have no idea how long she was there with them until she moved, as he had the right to kick her out. I assume he did. So Maggie, I'm sorry, I possibly forced homelessness upon you when we were sophomores in college. Yeah, I think she totally deserved it for being such an entitled roommate and for forcing OP to give away her beloved dog. In my opinion, OP should have stood her ground. Like, if a person who wasn't on the lease was telling me to do something like that, nuh-uh, you go before my dog does. But guys, there is a happy ending to that, because OP does come into the comments to say, I got him back a couple of years later. The guy I gave him to left for the military after college. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment with my roommate, who we'll call Emily. We've been living together for about 6 months, and while we're not best friends, things have always been pretty chill between us. Emily is super low-key, and since she's in a committed relationship, I've never had to deal with random guys showing up or sketchy situations. I thought I had it good until now. About a month ago, I went to my parents' place for 2 weeks. Before I left, I did my usual routine. I cleaned my room, took out the trash, and made sure everything was in order because I hate coming back to a messy apartment. I didn't think anything of it when Emily offered to water my plants while I was gone, as it seemed like a normal, considerate roommate thing to do. Well, when I got back, the first red flag hit me the second I opened my door. My room didn't feel right. I noticed a faint smell, like stale cologne and musty cigarettes, which is weird because, obviously, I hadn't been there in 2 weeks. And that's when I noticed my bed. The sheets were rumpled like somebody was sleeping in it. And that's when I started getting suspicious. I looked around and I saw little things that didn't add up. There was a water bottle on the nightstand that wasn't mine, that had a few cigarette butts in it. The window was slightly cracked open when I always leave it closed. And worst of all, the trash can beside my bed had multiple used rubbers in it. At this point, I was freaked out. I knew it couldn't have been Emily, as she was out of town when I was too, and there was no reason for any of this to be happening, so I confronted her. When I asked her straight up if someone had been in my room while I was gone, she looked caught off guard. After a few seconds of awkward silence, she admitted that while I was gone, she had sublet my room to a friend for those nights, as he needed a place to crash. She figured it wouldn't have been a big deal since I wasn't there. And the thing is, she didn't even ask me. She just decided on her own that it was fine to let some random guy sleep in my bed, hang out in my room, smoke cigarettes in it, and probably go through all of my personal belongings, as I noticed my underwear drawer was ruffled through. I lost it. I asked her who the guy was, and she got defensive, saying it was a friend of her girlfriend's who really needed a place for a few days. She tried to downplay it like it wasn't a huge deal, but I was livid. Someone was in my personal space, sleeping in my bed, went through my underwear drawer, and clearly was hooking up with someone in there. I told her it was disgusting and completely out of line, but she just kept brushing me off, saying, "It's not like anything got stolen or broken, you need to relax." And the thing is, nobody even cleaned my room after he left. She didn't even apologize properly, she just kept saying that she didn't think I'd care. Moving out's not really an option right now because of our lease, but I can't stand the thought of living with somebody who thinks it's okay to let complete strangers use my room without permission. I don't trust her anymore, and honestly, I am grossed out by the whole thing. Update. Number 1. I bought a new doorknob today that locks on both sides. It requires a code or key to unlock from the outside, providing extra security. Number 2. I'm planning to purchase a security camera for my room. Number 3. I'm currently crashing at my cousin's house until my room is deep cleaned. Number 4. I talked to my roommate, and she's using the money she made subletting my room to have it deep cleaned, and she's paying 2 weeks of my rent this month. Number 5. I talked to my landlord about the whole situation. He wasn't happy, and he said that subletting without permission is a serious lease violation. And since we're both on the lease, he told me that technically we're both responsible, even though I had nothing to do with it. He said he's documenting it as her violation this time, but if it happens again, we could both be at risk of eviction. Oh boy, the entitlement is astonishing in this one, and I love the fact that even though both of them were gone, she ends up renting out OP's room to make money, not hers. Like, what a Karen move that was. And it definitely wasn't worth it because that money is being used to clean OP's room and to pay for half of OP's rent that month. Also, the person renting out OP's room is a piece of crap too. Like, it's not your room, you stayed in it, you smoked cigarettes in it, went through an underwear drawer, and then slept with people in the room and didn't have the decency to clean up the mess. Like, at least throw away the used effing condoms, dude. And this person comments, "You need to ask your roommate where the $10,000 you had hidden under your mattress is." Oh boy, that would have been interesting. I am so proud of my daughter for this. This is a long story though. My daughter, who's 19 years old, had a group of high school friends for years. Fast forward to freshman year college, and her new roommate becomes a part of the friend group. I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer the same day she started classes that year. And as the year goes on, her relationship with some of these friends start to have problems. But the roommate still seems solid, so they sign a lease for sophomore year. By the beginning of sophomore year, all of her high school friends, all 4 of them, have turned on my daughter, and she's struggling to figure out why. By the end of September, she finds out that the roommate has been playing both sides of the fence and has ultimately sided with my daughter's old friends and continues to see them regularly. This, of course, creates a nasty living situation for my daughter, but she does her best to manage though. As time goes on, I find out that her friends turned on her because they felt that her emotional needs were toxic for them to be around. My daughter was having panic attacks about my cancer and other normal things, and she was reaching out to her friends for someone to talk to, and they couldn't handle it. A few weeks ago, the roommate invited 2 of these friends to stay over. My daughter asked that they pick another time, as she had work and then an all-nighter ahead of her, finishing her finals, and she didn't want to be in the apartment if they were going to be. The roommate ignored this request. My daughter walks into them being there after work, and she had a panic attack. The roommate then looks at her and says, "See, this is why you have no friends when you behave like this. What do you expect?" Well, this week, my daughter managed to find a way to move out before the roommate came back from break. The couch, the coffee table, the rug, the pots and pans, the dishes, the shower curtain, on and on, all of it was my daughter's. The internet, the electric bill, and the water are all in my daughter's name. My daughter took everything. She moved out and she left the roommate to come back from break with none of it working, and all of the shared space items gone. My daughter left her a note signed, "What did you expect?" I wish I could be there when she walked into that room. I am so glad OP's daughter did that to her roommate. Like, what a nasty person she and all the other friends are. Like, someone's mom's battling cancer and they clearly need support, and she gets cut and shunned for expressing her emotions. Sad to say, but none of them were friends to begin with. OP does come back with an update though that says, "My daughter received a text from one girl in the group, not her roommate. They were asking if they could talk to her about bringing some of the stuff back, as roommate was thinking of calling the cops. My daughter simply said, "No, I only took my stuff, so go ahead and call the cops, but don't text me again." So that's not much of an update, but at least we know that revenge was definitely served. So I really just need to rant, but oh my goodness, I don't think I could ever open my house to someone in need ever again. I've been looking up other horror stories of the same situation, and they're extremely on par and accurate. From all the stories I've read, it seems that when you take in a homeless person, they always end up severely overstaying their expected stay. This is true. What was supposed to be a 3-day stay is now over a month and counting. They don't understand boundaries. They'll use items of yours that they actually have no idea what the purpose is for. For example, using an expensive knife to clean out a bong, and then leaving it to rust in the sink. Their terrible sleep habits seep into your everyday life. So this girl starts her 9 a.m. morning by drinking Irish cream in her coffee that's not even hers. For me to find out today that she's been doing this every morning since living with us, for, in her words, to cope with the situation she's in. So after a week of staying with me, her brother and his girlfriend shows up at my house, uninvited, to which she told me, "Oh, sorry, I had no idea his girlfriend's coming. He didn't tell me, but do you mind if they stay here for a couple of days? Because he's 16 and he's homeless too." This has now resulted in them living in my house for weeks. My one roommate, the one who's actually pitching in on the bills, is the one who initially brought her into the home, who told me that this would be a max 3-day thing, which has clearly led to much, much more. This girl has moved in her own furniture into our once empty guest bedroom, and she tells my roommate that she needs him to be the one to find her an apartment and a job, because, quote, "talking to people causes too much anxiety." Which is wild to me because she openly talks about how much she misses being a stripper and how much money she used to make being a stripper. I'm sick and I'm tired. I'm tired of cleaning up the kitchen 5 times a day because there's a weed smell all over our house and nasty residue everywhere constantly. I told my roommate that when they leave, he's going to have to pay for a professional to come clean at least our kitchen because it's disgusting. There's constant fruit flies coming out of the sink, which we've never had before. My roommate informed them about a week ago that they have to be out no later than the end of the month, which he said they took the information well. Well, last night, I walk in on a conversation in the kitchen where my roommate was strictly telling her, "No, you can't rob us, stab us, or anything of that matter, because I promise you it will only make your situation worse. I don't want to call police, and I'm very serious. You have to be out by the end of the month. There is absolutely no negotiating that." To which her response to that was, "I'm not leaving your place. I'm staying here. I have nowhere else to go. If you kick me out, I might as well die then, since I won't have anywhere for me and my brother to live." So yeah, if you ever even consider taking a friend in due to homelessness or such, trust me when I say it's not worth it. I'm currently looking at condos to buy because I'm so fed up with all of this. It's ruined my friendship with my roommate and the comfort of my home. I know they'll never leave. You know what they say, no good deed goes unpunished, and what an unfortunate situation to be in for OP. How their personal safe space has been violated. I'm just glad OP recognizes that they're better off finding a place of their own because you know that woman's never ever leaving. And if I were in OP's shoes, I would not be staying in that home anymore. Especially after hearing the roommate say, "No, you can't stab us or rob us." Like, what a mess that is. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /EntitledPeople. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's in our /malicious compliance episode, where bad bosses are getting absolutely destroyed. Guys, go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.